I always found romance anime interesting in that I don't find it very interesting. A lot of it's very cliche, by the numbers, exactly what you would expect, and of course, the two main characters ending up together. It's kind of boring when you start to think about it. And that's not always a bad thing, at least not necessarily. Just because something's predictable doesn't mean it's the wrong choice. But then I came across this other show. This show that honestly I'd never heard anybody talk about before. Now, this was, I want to say, about 4 or 5 years ago. Well, so I was a little late on this, but I discovered the 2002 anime that was Chobits. Chobits is the story of a farm boy named Hideki Monosuwa who wants to go to college. He doesn't get accepted the first time, so he decides to go to the city to a cram school to better prepare himself. During one of his first days there, he notices a woman lying down in the garbage. He takes her to his home and discovers that she's actually a Persicom. A Persicom being an android-like figure. They can surf the web, they can cook, they can clean, they can do pretty much anything that you can imagine them to do. It's kind of like Detroit Almost Human, except not nearly as depressing, for the most part, but we'll get to that in a bit. The Persicom he finds can only say the word Chi at first, hence why he decides to name her Chi. And the show does a really good job of showing that they're both fishes out of water. While most Persicoms are able to do all the stuff I previously talked about, Chi isn't so lucky. She can only say Chi, she has little to no knowledge of the world itself, and Hideki has to teach her a whole lot of other things, which actually makes the show look really good. It shows that even though Hideki is in unfamiliar territory, being a country boy in the big city, he actually does know enough to teach Chi, albeit to some hilarious results. There are a lot of moments where he falls on his face and things don't work out the way he wants, but honestly that makes him that much more likable. A lot of people would compare Hideki to a bunch of other, usual romantic anime leads, but he's actually a little bit different. While most others are bland with a side of niceness to them, Hideki's main personality trope is that he's a nice guy, which gets pointed out a lot. It's a subtle difference, but it actually does help his character become that much more engaging. I enjoyed it. He may not always know what he's doing, but his heart is always in the right place. He's always willing to help his friends out, and that's what makes him so much more different than others. Like I said before, Chi starts off not knowing that much about the world. She doesn't know her own name, she points at everything and calls it Hideki, which is hilarious for the first bit. And overall, she's very lost in the world, to the point where at the beginning she thinks Hideki might throw her out in the beginning, but he tells her straight up that he was not going to abandon her, which is a really touching moment in the beginning. But as the series progresses, she learns more and more. She's able to form, well, not complete sentences, but she's able to talk to people enough to where they know what she's talking about. One of the best things Chobits does is its interactions with the other characters. There's Shinbo, who's Hideki's best friend and classmate, who will help him a lot often in the beginning of the series, dealing with Persicoms and other stuff. He'll often tease him for it, but it's a good dynamic that the two have, especially when things get reversed and Shinbo actually ends up coming to Hideki for advice about love and other sorts of things. The main story with Shinbo happens to be with him and Hideki's teacher, Shimizu. He ends up falling in love with her after she hears her husband left her for a Persicom. And this is where we learn that not all Persicoms have had a positive impact on people's lives. There are some sad stories in this anime. There's also this girl named Yumi who works at a pub with Hideki. While at first it kind of seems like she has a crush on him and they do have some pretty hilarious interactions, it kind of turns into a big brother little sister relationship, which actually I do prefer. I don't really like the trope of multiple girls fighting over somebody or multiple guys fighting over somebody because it's never done all that well, so I like that they kind of tone it back to a brother-sister relationship. She falls in love with this baker named Ueda, who recently was in a relationship with a Persicom who lost their memories and was later deactivated. It's one of the saddest stories in the whole show, and it demonstrates what Chobits does best. A lot of romance anime, when they tease the main couple getting together, it's, will they get together? Will they be together? And honestly, it's not that interesting to me. It's very cliche, we know how it's going to end. Chobits goes a little differently. Chobits goes, should these people be together? And there is a big, big difference. The stories that Hideki's friends go through affects his dynamic with Chi. He starts to think about what it would be like if they would be together, should it happen. It's not just simply a, do I like her or do I not like her thing. It's a different direction, and I appreciate it. Of course, with Hideki's kindness, he's able to convince Yumi and Ueda to be together, so I hope they have a lot of happy years together, despite the fact that she's 17 and he's 39. Ugh. But this show isn't all sadness. There are some genuine hilarious moments. Just in the beginning, with Chi trying to figure out everything that's going on in the world, Hideki adjusting to his school work, along with life in the city, other people's reactions to their surroundings. It's a hilarious show. There are a lot of perverted jokes that sadly don't age all that well, but it came out in 2002. What do you expect? It's been almost 20 years. Ooh, I'm old. Like, not as old as that baker, but still pretty old. It's kind of sad to see. But one of the biggest developments the show has is Chi herself. It turns out she's a special type of persicom called a Chobit, a persicom that has free range with emotions and can do pretty much anything, especially fall in love. Now, like we said before, she doesn't really know how to do that at first, but it progresses as the series goes on. She finds these series of books in a bookstore that are tied to her memory and her emotions somehow, and those are a huge source of her development. Granted, I'm not really sure what it would have been like if somebody else had picked up those books, but what are you gonna do? Plot convenience. There's no particular bad guy throughout the series, but there is this one guy called Dragonfly who wants to use Chi for his own nefarious purposes until she stops him with one of the coolest scenes in the anime where she tells him not to come inside. This is what I was talking about with that perverted humor that does not age well. We also learned that Chi has a sister named Freya. Things were going well at first for them when they were together, but she actually ended up falling in love with their father. Trust me, it does not go there much, but it doesn't go there. Rather than other romance anime who would try to force this, Freya accepts that she'll never be able to be with the love of her life, so she decides to basically self-terminate herself, and now she lives within Chi as basically her guardian angel. And that is where the show really starts to get deep. It shows that these persicoms having emotions, feelings, and all these other sorts of things isn't always a good thing. With every feeling of happiness, there could be a feeling of sadness right around the corner, and some just aren't able to handle that. The mother of Freya and Chi actually ends up being Miss Hybia, the landlord of Hideki and Shinbo's apartment. Somebody who at first doesn't really seem to do a whole lot throughout the series, but as the series progresses, we learn more and more just how important she is, as the author of those previously mentioned books. Admittedly though, one of the biggest problems with this show is the pacing. A lot of the episodes were very comedic with very, very little instances of sadness, but a lot of the episodes towards the end and the middle delved into the sadness a little more. Okay, a lot more. Which unfortunately makes it kind of a hard sell to people. I can understand why people wouldn't necessarily be interested in this at first. Seriously, I'm a dummy, and even I can come up with an episode better than the Underpants episode. Just go and watch it, please. It's not good, but it's something. Probably the final bit of thing that the show decides to talk about that is if Chi completely awakens to her feelings for Hideki, every other persicom will be able to awaken to feelings like love, happiness, sadness, emotion, and there are two other persicoms who want to stop that from happening. Well, actually one. The other turns out to be on Hideki and Chi's side for this, but it was a nice change of pace. It was a nice thing to add these characters. I probably would have added them a little bit earlier, but it was still nice for what they did. The animation for Chobits is pretty standard. There's not a whole lot of over-the-top moments with the animation. It's actually a lot more subtle and it's more comedic aspects, which I do appreciate. Nothing too over-the-top. But the standard animation isn't too bad. It's watchable. The music is widely known as one of the best things about Chobits. Each song fits the mood perfectly. I really enjoy a lot of the tracks, most notably Dark Cheese theme and probably the most notable background theme in the show, Sekai ha Kyo wo Hajimaru. If you look up the song and you've seen the show, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's other characters that I didn't touch on too much, like Minoru, a 12-year-old genius who helps out Hideki with a lot of his technological problems with chi, along with his Persicom Yuzuki, who's very helpful to the group. She acts like a surrogate sister to Minoru when his sister passed away, but as the series progresses, she develops her own personality, and Minoru realizes that his sister can't be replaced, but he loves Yuzuki for who she is. And of course, there's Sumomo, who's known for being Shinbo's Persicom and known for doing the quote-unquote wakey exercises. I'm not sure how this didn't become more of a meme or more of a thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if it started now. Go for it, guys. See what happens. Overall, Chobits is a very enjoyable series. While the pacing can be pretty lackluster at times, I've seen far worse from some recent anime. The jokes are gold, the darker moments really settle in and feel human, and it's a lot different from other romance anime, which just seem to have romance with nothing else. This show has darker moments. This show has a lot of stuff that people can grasp onto, and even after all these years later, it's something I like to go back and watch. I give it a solid buy it, as in I would buy the DVDs if I could, which I can and I should get on that, but regardless. But what did you guys think of Chobits? Am I overselling it? Am I underselling it? What parts of it did you enjoy? And would you like to see a remake of the show, or should they just leave it alone? But just let us know. This has been Foster of the Anime Egotists saying, Hideki is a pervert. Also, if you've never got that opening theme song in your head, like literally stuck in your head, I fucking hate you. Also, sorry Android 18, sorry Siri, sorry Alexa, Chi is the most adorable AI on the planet. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them.
Chi and Hideki would love for you to enjoy the Anime Egotists. Underpants.